What an awesome day, everyone! I am here to share my report about a topic that plays a big role in early childhood education. The title of my report is The Neuroscience in Brain Development. This topic will help us understand how the brain works, especially in the early years of a child's life. I will explain how the brain grows, how it changes, and why early experience matter. I hope this helps you see how important it is to support children's learning and develop from the start. Our lesson objectives is first, define neuroscience and explain its importance in understanding brain development. Identify the main parts of the brain and their functions. And lastly, describe how the brain and spinal cord work together to control body movements and sensation. So, what is neuroscience? Neuroscience is a study of how the brain and the rest of the nervous system work. It helps us understand how we think, move, feel emotions, and learn new things. It also explains how our brain controls our behavior and daily actions. So, with the new technology, scientists are now able to study the brain in more detail. This allowed them to discover that the first 6 years of a child's life are the most important years for the brain development. During this stage, the brain is more active and more open to learning. This early period is called a phase of a greater plasticity. Plasticity means the brain can change, grow, and form new connections. These connections happen between neurons, which are the brain cells. Every time a child has a new experience or learns something, the brain creates new links between those cells. This process is called neuroplasticity. It's the brain's ability to change its structure, chemistry, and function in response to experience. For example, when a child learns to speak, walk, or play, their brain changes physically. It builds new pathways to support these skills. The more positive and engaging the experience, the stronger the connections become. That's why the environment around a child is very important. Interactions with parents, caregivers, and teachers help shape how the brain works. In simple terms, neuroscience shows us how the brain works and why early childhood is the best time to support learning. It teaches us that what children experience in their early years will affect how they think, feel, and behave later in life. The nervous system is our body's command center. It controls everything we do, from thinking and feeling to breathing and moving. It allows the brain to communicate with the rest of the body. So it has the three basic functions. The first one is receive sensory input from internal and external environment. The second one is to integrate the input, and the third is respond to stimuli. So let me discuss the first. So first is receive sensory input from both inside the body and the outside environment. For example, it notices when your stomach is hungry or when your hand touches something cold. Second, it integrates the input. This means the brain processes the information and decide what action to take. Then for the third, it responds to stimuli. After processing the input, the brain sends a message to the body to react. For example, if something is too bright, your eyes may squint. Our nervous system is composed of two major categories. The first one is the peripheral nervous system, and the second one is the central nervous system, or the CNS. The peripheral nervous system, or PNS, is the part of the nervous system that works with the central nervous system by handling input and output. It includes all the nerves outside the brain and spinal cord. It has two main types of nerves. Sensory nerves send messages to the brain. They collect information from the skin, muscles, and sense organs, then send it to the spinal cord in brain for processing. This includes things like pain, temperature, and touch. Motor nerves carry signals from the brain to the rest of the body. These signals tells the muscles when to move and the glands when to release chemicals like hormones. The peripheral nervous system is divided into two parts, the somatic division and the autonomic division. And under the autonomic division is the sympathetic nervous system, then B, sympathetic nervous system. So, the somatic division controls voluntary movements. This includes the nerves that move your arms, legs, and other body parts you control on purpose. The autonomic division controls involuntary functions. These are actions that happen automatically like heartbeat, digestion, and breathing. It has two branches. The parasympathetic nervous system keeps the body calm and at rest. It controls things like slowing the heart rate and helping with the digestion. The sympathetic nervous system prepares the body for action. It speeds up the heart, increases breathing, and gets the body ready for stress or danger. This is often called the fight or flight response. Together, the peripheral nervous system connects the body to the brain and helps us respond to the world around us, both when we decide to move and when the body acts on its own. The peripheral nervous system has two main parts, the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Let's start with the somatic nervous system. This system is made up of nerves that are connected to sensory receptors and skeletal muscles. It allows us to perform actions we control, like walking, talking, or picking up an object. These are called voluntary actions because we decide to do them. Now, the autonomic nervous systems work differently. It controls involuntary functions, which means things that happens in the body without us thinking about them. This includes the movement of blood vessels, activity in glands, and the function of internal organs like the bladder, stomach, and the heart. The autonomic nervous system has two main divisions. The parasympathetic nervous system, this part slows the body down after activity. It helps the body calm down, conserve energy, and return to a normal state. Think of it like the brakes in a car. It slows things down to keep balance. Then for B, sympathetic nervous system, this part does the opposite. It activates the body when there is stress or danger. It increases the heart rate, speed up the breathing, and prepares the body to react. You can think of it like the accelerator. It gets the body ready for action. These two systems work together to keep the body in balance, adjusting based on what we need at the moment, whether it's to stay calm or to respond quickly. The central nervous system or CNS is made up of two main parts, the brain and the spinal cord. This system is responsible for processing all the information the body receives and then sending out of instructions. The spinal cord is a long bundle of nerves that runs down the back. It carries signals between the brain and the rest of the body. These nerve signals help us feel sensation and control our movements. For example, if you touch a hot iron, the signals travels through the spinal cord to the brain, and your brain quickly tells your hands to pull away. The spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column, which is a group of bones stacked on the top of each other. These bones are cervical vertebra, found in the neck area, thoracic vertebra, located in the upper back, lumbar vertebra, lower back, and the sanctum, the base of the spine, and the anterior it refers to the front side of the body. The skull protects the brain just like the spine protects the spinal cord. These strong bone structures help keep the central nervous system safe from injury. Overall, the central nervous system controls everything from thinking and emotion to body movements and reflexes. It is the core of how we function every day. The brain is a complex organ in the control center of the body. It manages everything we do, how we think, remember, feel, and move. It also controls autonomic functions like breathing, heartbeat, body temperature, and hunger. Every process in the body is regulated by the brain. The brain has three main parts, each with its own rule. The first one is the cerebrum. This is the largest part of the brain. It controls thinking, memory, speech, emotions, voluntary movements, and the senses like seeing and hearing. It's divided into left and the right halves called hemisphere. Then second is the cerebellum, found at the back of the brain. The cerebellum is responsible for balance, coordination, and muscle. It helps you move smoothly and stay upright. Then the third is the brainstem. This connects the brain to the spinal cord. It controls autonomic functions like breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and digestion. These are actions we don't have to think about. All three parts work together to keep the body running, whether we are awake, asleep, active, or at rest. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It's divided into two halves, called the left and the right cerebral hemisphere. These two sides are connected by a thick band of the nerve fibers called the corpus callosum, which allows them to share information and work together. The cerebrum is where higher level thinking happens. This includes decision making, problem solving, planning, memory, and emotion. It also controls most of our conscious actions like moving our arms, speaking, or paying attention. Covering the cerebrum is a thin layer of a tightly packed nerve cells called the cerebral cortex. This outer layer is responsible for processing information from our senses, controlling our voluntary movements, and supporting complex thinking. Each hemisphere of the cerebrum is divided into four lobes, separated by deep grooves called fissures. These lobes each have a specific roles in how we sense, think, and act. I'll explain each lobe in the next part. Let's talk about the four lobes of the brain, starting with the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe. The frontal lobe is located at the front part of the brain. One of its main areas is the motor cortex, which controls the voluntary movement of the muscle. This means when you decide to move your hand, speak, or walk, it starts here. The frontal lobe also helps with reasoning, decision making, focus, and emotional control. Next is the parietal lobe, which is found at the top of the brain. It includes the somatosensory area, which helps you feel touch, pressure, temperature, and pain. For example, if you feel something hot or sharp, the parietal lobe is the part of the brain that processes that feeling. Both of these lobes work together so you can move with purpose and respond to your environment through your senses. The occipital lobe is located at the back of the brain. Its main function is vision. It contains the visual cortex, which processes everything you see like colors, shape, and motion. When your eyes send signal, this part of the brain helps you understand what you're looking at. The temporal lobe is found on the sides of the brain, near your ears. It contains the auditory cortex, which is responsible for hearing and processing sound. The temporal lobe also plays an important role in memory, language, and perception and emotion. When you listen to someone talk or remember a past event, these parts of the brain is active. Together, these lobes help us see, hear, understand language, and manage memory and emotion. Language and speech are mainly controlled by the left hemisphere of the brain. This side is often called the dominant hemisphere, especially for the right-handed people. It handles how we speak, understand words, and form sentences. These are two key areas in the brain related to language. So, Broca's area is found in the left frontal lobe. It controls the muscles movements needed for speaking. When we talk, this area sends instruction to the muscles of the mouth, lips, and tongue. Then Wernicke's area is located in the left temporal lobe. It helps with understanding language. This area lets us make sense of the words we hear or read. Language involves both specialization and integration, meaning different parts of the brain work together to process and produce language. Here shows what process flow. The first one is the visual cortex receive the written words when we read. It takes in the shape and letters as visual input. Then the second is the angular gyrus, changes those visual signals into an auditory code, something the brain can recognize as language. Then the third is Wernicke's area, then interprets the auditory code, helping us understand the meaning of the words. Then the fourth is Broca's area, plans and forms the response. sending commands to the speech muscles. Then fifth, finally, the motor cortex activates the muscles in the mouth so we can pronounce the word. This teamwork between brain areas makes it possible for us to read, understand, and speak language. The brain is divided into two halves called hemispheres, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. Each side has its own special functions, a concept known as a brain literalization. Let's start with the left hemisphere. This side is responsible for verbal skills such as speaking, reading, thinking, and reasoning. It processes information in a step-by-step, logical way, focusing on one piece of data at a time. This makes it strong in language, math, and analytical thinking. Now for the right hemisphere. This side is in charge of non-verbal functions like understanding spatial relationship, recognizing faces, drawing, music, and emotion. It processes information as a whole rather than its steps. The right hemisphere is more intuitive and creative. It helps us understand tone, mood, and visual patterns. Both hemispheres work together, but each has its own strengths. The left side handles logic and language, while the right side manages creativity and emotion. Let's now look at two more important parts of the brain, the cerebellum and the brainstem. First, the cerebellum. It is the second largest part of the brain. Its main job is to coordinate muscles, movements, and maintain your balance and posture. For example, when you walk, ride a bike, or even stand still, your cerebellum is working to keep you steady and in control. Now let's talk about the brainstem. This is the stalk-like structure located at the bottom of your brain. It connects the brain to the spinal cord and is responsible for many basic life functions. This includes breathing, heart rate, balance, and sending signals to the rest of your body. The brainstem has three parts. The midbrain is the top part. It helps regulate eye movements and processes visual and auditory information. The pons is in the middle. It helps control facial expression, hearing, and balance. The medulla oblongata is at the base. It plays a key role in controlling breathing, heartbeat, blood pressure, and even swallowing. These parts may be small, but they are essential for survival. Without the cerebellum and brainstem, the body would not function properly. The brain is divided into three distinct regions, each with important rules. First, forebrain. This is the largest region of the brain. It includes structures like the hypothalamus and the thalamus. The hypothalamus keeps your body in balance. It controls things like hunger, fears, emotions, body temperature, and even sexual behavior. The thalamus acts like a relay station. It receives sensory signals and sends them to the right part of the brain for processing. 2. Midbrain. The midbrain helps with motor movement, especially eye movement. It also plays a role in auditory and visual processing. When you react to sounds or quickly turn your head to look at something, your midbrain is working. 3. Hindbrain. The hindbrain includes the medulla oblongata, pons, and the cerebellum. These parts handle basic life functions like breathing, heart rate, balance, and muscle coordination. Now let's talk about neurons. Neurons or nerve cells are the basic units of the brain and the whole nervous system. They send and receive signals throughout your body. Without neurons, the brain can function. These neurons are supported by glial cells. Glial cells don't send signals, but they are important. They provide nutrients, insulate neurons, clean up dead cells or waste. So while neurons do the main work, glial cells keep them healthy and working properly. Structure of a typical neuron. A neuron has four main parts. Each part has a specific function. Dendrites act like antennas, receive signals from other neurons. Then cell body contains the cell machinery, keeps the neuron alive and working. Then the axon sends messages away from the cell body, transfers signals to other neurons, muscles, or glands. Then, myelin's sheath, fatty layer that covers the axon, speeds up nerve signals, prevents interference from nearby nerve signals formed by glial cell. Types of neurons. Afferent sensory neurons carry messages towards the brain and spinal cord. Example, when you touch something hot, sensory neurons send the signals to your brain. Efferent or motor neurons carry messages away from the brain. Example, your brain tells your hand to pull back from something hot using motor neurons. Let's talk about ganglia and squam cells. Ganglia are clusters of nerve cells. You can find them outside the brain and spinal cord. Their job is to relay signals in the peripheral nervous system. Think of them as small relay stations that help pass messages along your nerves. Now let's move to Schwann cell. These are special glial cells. They wrap around the axons of neurons to form the myelin's sheath. This sheath protects the axon and helps speed up the signal. Between each Schwann cell, there's a small group gap called the node of Reinver. These gaps are important. They help the nerve signal jump from the node to the next, making it travel faster. So, to keep it simple, ganglia or clusters of nerve cells, Schwann cells support and protect neurons, myelin sheath, speed up signal, node of Renvier, help signals move faster. That's how your body sends messages quickly and efficiently. In conclusion, neuroscience teaches us how the brain and nervous system work, especially during the early years of life. The brain grows quickly in childhood, and experiences help shape how we think, learn, and move. Understanding parts of the brain, neurons, and how both sides of the brain work help us support proper brain development in children. So that ends for my presentation. Thank you for listening.